Well, Aaliyah, welcome to the ownership club, Marcus said with a tired grin as he shoved the last heavy box into the spacious foyer. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and exhaled deeply, clearly exhausted but satisfied. Let's break tradition, though. No cats crossing the threshold first. Rex, you go ahead. The large German shepherd stepped inside obediently, his paws echoing softly against the polished hardwood floor. Aaliyah, Allie, managed a faint smile, though it barely touched her lips. The move had drained her completely, both physically and emotionally. She stood still for a moment, letting her eyes wander around their new home. The foyer was breathtaking in a quiet, aged way. High ceilings stretched above her, decorated with intricate crown molding that spoke of a different era. Wide oak doors stood proudly along the hallway, and the slightly worn hardwood floor shimmered faintly under the soft light. The walls were covered in old wallpaper with a faded floral design, giving the space a strange mix of elegance and melancholy. Mark, it's beautiful, Allie whispered, gently running her fingers along the cool wall. It feels real, like it has a story. You bet it does, Marcus replied with pride. Art Deco style, original features, prime location. Grant handled everything perfectly. Honestly, we got incredibly lucky. Places like this don't just fall into your lap. He stepped closer and wrapped his arms around her shoulders. Once his embrace had felt like safety, a warm cocoon that shut the world out. But now, it felt different, tight, restrictive, like something she couldn't escape from. Allie stiffened slightly, though she didn't pull away. In her mind, she blamed everything on what had happened. The hospital, the unbearable silence, the loss of their baby. Doctors had fought to save both mother and child, but in the end, only she survived. And sometimes she wasn't even sure if that counted as luck. At that exact moment, Rex, who had been curiously sniffing around, froze, completely still. His body went rigid in the center of the foyer, directly over one square of the old tile floor. The fur along his spine slowly stood on end. He lowered his head, sniffed the tile again, and then let out a deep, guttural growl. A chill ran down Allie's spine. Rex, she called softly. What's wrong? The dog didn't respond. His growl grew louder, more aggressive, and suddenly he burst into sharp, furious barking, staring at the tile as if something unseen lurked beneath it. He stepped back, then another step, refusing to go near it. Mark, look at him, Allie said, her voice tightening with unease. Marcus walked over casually and nudged the tile with his boot. It made a hollow sound. He shrugged. It's an old building. Probably mice or something under the floor. Relax. But he's never acted like this. Rex, Marcus snapped. Enough, come here. But the dog didn't obey. Instead, he kept barking, his eyes locked onto that single spot, as if it were something alive. When he finally moved away, he took a wide detour around the tile, refusing to step anywhere near it. That's not normal, Allie murmured. It's nothing, Marcus dismissed. He'll get used to it. Come on, I want to show you the bedroom. The view is incredible. Allie followed him, but her eyes drifted back to that tile. Something wasn't right, and Rex had sensed it first. By the end of the day, nothing had changed. Every hour, the same ritual repeated itself. Rex would approach the foyer, freeze, growl, bark, and then avoid the tile completely. His anxiety didn't fade, it worsened. Marcus laughed it off. Allie didn't. By night, Rex refused to eat properly. He whimpered in his sleep, his body tense, as if trapped in some invisible nightmare. The next morning, Allie had had enough. I'm taking him to the vet, she said firmly over breakfast. Marcus didn't even look up from his phone. Don't be ridiculous. It's just stress from moving. No, it's not, she insisted. He's suffering. You can see it. Do whatever you want, he muttered coldly. For a brief second, he looked up at her, and something in his eyes felt distant, detached, as if her concerns were nothing more than an inconvenience. That look stayed with her. The veterinary clinic was small but clean and welcoming. They were attended by a young doctor, Dr. Julian Vance. He had calm, steady movements and kind, observant eyes. Strangely, the moment Rex was in his presence, he relaxed. His tense body softened, and he even wagged his tail slightly. Well, what's bothering you, handsome? Julian said gently, scratching behind Rex's ears. Allie explained everything in detail, the tile, the barking, the fear. Julian listened carefully without interrupting. After examining Rex, he straightened and nodded thoughtfully. Physically, your dog is perfectly healthy, he said. No signs of illness, just mild stress, which is normal after a move. Allie frowned. Then what is it? Julian hesitated briefly. What you're describing? That's not just fear. It's a reaction. Something strong. Something triggering his instincts. Like what? Most likely a smell, he said. Dogs can detect things we can't even imagine. Sometimes chemicals, old contamination, or even the scent of decay. Allie felt her stomach tighten. Decay? She repeated softly. I'm not saying anything specific, he clarified gently. But if something seeped into the floor decades ago, your dog could still smell it. A heavy silence settled between them. Don't force him near that spot, Julian added. Let him avoid it. Observe him. And if anything changes, call me. For the first time in days, Allie felt heard. Thank you. Julian, she said quietly. He smiled. Anytime. Later that day, Allie went to school, trying to focus on her job as an art teacher. But her calm didn't last long. Before classes began, the principal called her into his office. We're transferring a new student into your class, he said. His name is Bryce Sinclair. The moment she heard the surname, everything inside her froze. Sinclair, Vanessa Sinclair. A name she hadn't heard in years, but had never truly forgotten. The classroom buzzed softly with creativity as children painted autumn landscapes. Then the door creaked open. A tall boy walked in, his expression dripping with arrogance. Bryce. Within minutes, he began mocking the other students, tearing down their work with cruel remarks. Allie felt something inside her snap. Sit down, she said firmly. He smirked. Or what? The challenge hung in the air. Allie stepped closer, her voice calm but sharp as ice. In my classroom, no one disrespects others. Sit down now. For a moment, Bryce hesitated. Then, surprisingly, he obeyed. After school, Allie saw her, standing outside, elegant, confident, unchanged, Vanessa Sinclair. The same girl who had made her childhood miserable. The same cruel smile appeared as their eyes met. Well, if it isn't Allie the scribbler, Vanessa said mockingly. Allie forced herself to stay calm. I'm your son's teacher, she said. Vanessa laughed. Of course you are. Every word that followed was laced with superiority, designed to humiliate. But this time, Allie didn't break. I have to go, she said simply, walking away. And for the first time, she didn't cry. That night, back home, Allie sat in silence with Rex. Her mind replayed everything, the tile, the vet's warning, Vanessa's return. Then her eyes fell on the floor, that tile. Slowly, she knelt down and examined it more closely. That's when she noticed it, a small gap near the baseboard. Her heart began to race. She grabbed a knife from the kitchen and carefully slid it into the gap. Something was there, soft but solid. Carefully, she pulled it out, a tightly rolled, yellowed photograph. With trembling hands, she unwrapped it. It showed a young woman, Marcus's aunt, Carol, standing with a man and a small child. They looked happy, like a family. On the back, faded ink read, My family, Eli Maisie, non zititi. Allie's breath caught. Marcus had always said Aunt Carol never had a family. So who were they? And why was this hidden? That night, when Marcus came home, she showed him the photo. His reaction was instant. Shock, then anger. Where did you get this? He demanded. Behind the baseboard, she replied. Mark, who are these people? His face darkened. That's none of your business. And with that, he snatched the photo, crushed it, and walked away, leaving Allie standing there, with more questions than ever before, and a growing, terrifying realization. This house wasn't just old, it was hiding something. The door slammed so hard behind Marcus that the walls seemed to tremble. Allie stood frozen in the middle of the foyer, her heart pounding loudly in her ears. The echo of his anger lingered in the air like a storm that refused to pass. She had never seen him like that before, so defensive, so afraid. Afraid? That thought unsettled her the most. Marcus wasn't the kind of man who got scared easily. He was always composed, always in control. But the moment he saw that photograph, something inside him had cracked. And that meant only one thing. The picture mattered, more than he wanted her to know. Allie slowly exhaled and looked down at her phone, still clutched tightly in her hand. Before Marcus had snatched the photograph away, she had managed, almost instinctively, to take a quick picture of it. Front and back. It wasn't much, but it was enough. The next morning, Marcus left early for work, barely saying a word. His cold silence hung between them like an invisible wall. Allie didn't try to stop him. She simply watched him leave, her mind already made up. She needed answers, and if Marcus wasn't going to give them to her, someone else would. Mrs. Dolores Jones had lived in the building longer than anyone else. If there was a secret buried within those walls, she would know. Taking a deep breath, Allie knocked on her neighbor's door. It opened almost immediately. Well, hello there, dear, Mrs. Jones chirped warmly. Come in, come in. Her apartment was a stark contrast to Allie's, cozy, cluttered, filled with the comforting scent of old books and fresh tea. "I'm sorry to bother you," Allie began hesitantly. "I just wanted to ask about the previous owner of my apartment, Carolyn Harris." The effect was immediate. The warmth in Mrs. Jones's face faded. "Carol," she repeated softly, her expression darkening. "Oh, my dear, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time." Allie's pulse quickened. "You knew her?" "Knew her?" Mrs. Jones sighed, slowly lowering herself into a chair. "I watched her life fall apart piece by piece." A heavy silence filled the room. "What do you mean?" Allie asked quietly. Mrs. Jones hesitated, as if weighing whether to continue. Then, finally, she spoke. "Carol wasn't what your husband's family says she was," she began. "She wasn't some lonely old woman who dedicated her life to books." Allie leaned forward, her fingers tightening in her lap. "She had a family," Mrs. Jones continued. "A husband. And a little girl. Beautiful child. Always laughing." Allie's breath caught. "The photograph. It was real. But," she whispered, "Marcus told me she never married. That she didn't have children." Mrs. Jones gave a bitter smile. "That's the story they chose to tell." "Why?" The old woman looked at her, really looked at her. "Because it's easier to erase the truth than to live with it." A chill ran down Allie's spine. "What happened to them?" she asked. Mrs. Jones's hands trembled slightly as she reached for her teacup. "They disappeared." Allie blinked. "Disappeared?" "One day they were there," Mrs. Jones said slowly. "And the next? Gone. No goodbye. No explanation. Just gone." "That doesn't make sense," Allie said. "People don't just vanish." Mrs. Jones let out a hollow laugh. "Oh, but they do, dear. Especially when someone wants them to." Allie felt her stomach twist. "Are you saying—" "I'm saying," Mrs. Jones interrupted gently, "that after they disappeared, Carol was never the same." "What do you mean?" "She changed," the old woman whispered. "Completely. She became quiet, withdrawn, like a ghost in her own home." Allie's mind raced. "And no one asked questions?" "Of course they did," Mrs. Jones said. "But answers were hard to come by." "Why?" Mrs. Jones hesitated again. Then she leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Because Marcus's family made sure of it." The words hit Allie like a punch to the chest. "My husband's family?" she repeated. Mrs. Jones nodded slowly. "They have influence. Always have. Money, connections, things. Disappear when they want them to." Allie's heart pounded harder. "No, that doesn't make sense," she said, though her voice lacked conviction. "Marcus wouldn't—" "Wouldn't what?" Mrs. Jones asked gently. "Keep secrets?" Allie fell silent, because deep down, she already knew the answer. When Allie returned to her apartment, the air felt different, heavier, as if the walls themselves were watching her. Rex immediately came to her side, pressing close, his body tense. "It's okay," she murmured, though she wasn't sure if she believed it herself. Her eyes drifted to the foyer, to the tile. The same tile Rex refused to step on. The same tile that had made him panic. The same tile that now felt wrong. Julian's words echoed in her mind. A strong, concentrated irritant, possibly decay. Her breath hitched. No, it couldn't be that. Could it? Slowly, cautiously, she stepped closer. Rex whimpered behind her. "Stay," she told him softly. The dog didn't move. Allie crouched down, her fingers hovering over the tile. For a moment, she hesitated. Then, she tapped it lightly. A hollow sound echoed beneath. Just like before. Her heart began to race. She looked around the foyer, her mind spinning. Then her gaze landed on the edge of the tile. Something was off. It wasn't perfectly aligned with the others. It was slightly raised. Barely noticeable. Unless you were looking for it. Allie swallowed hard. Her hands trembled as she stood up and walked to the kitchen. Moments later, she returned with a screwdriver. Rex began to whine again. "It's okay," she whispered, though her voice shook. Kneeling down, she carefully slid the tip of the screwdriver into the narrow gap along the edge of the tile. For a second, nothing happened. Then, a soft click. The tile shifted. Allie's breath caught. Slowly, carefully, she pried it upward. The tile lifted, and beneath it, darkness. A small, hollow space hidden beneath the floor. A cold, foul smell rose instantly, hitting her like a wave. Allie recoiled, covering her mouth. It was faint, but unmistakable. "Goed." Her stomach churned. "Dear God," she whispered. Her hands shook as she leaned closer, forcing herself to look inside. At first she saw nothing, just shadows. Then something pale, something unnatural. Her vision blurred as her brain struggled to process what she was seeing. A fragment. White. Smooth. Too smooth. Her heart stopped. No, 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 no. It couldn't be. But deep down, she already knew, because Rex had known. From the very beginning, Allie staggered back, her entire body trembling. Her mind screamed at her to run, to leave, to forget she had ever seen any of this. But she couldn't. Because now, she understood. The smell, the fear, the secret. This house wasn't just hiding something. It was hiding someone. And whatever had happened here was far from over. Allie couldn't breathe. The foul, suffocating smell clung to her lungs as she stumbled backward, her hands shaking uncontrollably. Her eyes remained fixed on the dark hollow beneath the tile, as if looking away would somehow make it disappear. But it didn't, because it was real. Rex began barking wildly behind her, his fear now completely unleashed. He paced back and forth, refusing to come any closer, yet unwilling to leave her alone. "Stop, stop," Allie whispered, though she wasn't sure if she was speaking to the dog or to herself. Her mind raced, trying to piece everything together. The smell, the hidden photograph, the lies. Mrs. Jones's words echoed in her head. They disappeared. Allie slowly turned her head back toward the open tile. Her entire body screamed at her to run. Instead, she forced herself forward. One step, then another. Her knees trembled as she crouched down again, her hand gripping the edge of the floor for support. "Just look," she whispered. Just once. Taking a shaky breath, she leaned closer and reached for her phone. Turning on the flashlight, she directed the beam into the hidden space. The light cut through the darkness and revealed the truth. Bones, not a full skeleton, but enough. Fragments of something that had once been human. Allie gasped sharply, her hand flying to her mouth as tears filled her eyes. "No." Her voice broke. This wasn't just a smell. This wasn't just some old secret. This was a grave, right beneath her feet. For a long moment, she couldn't move. Her brain refused to accept what she was seeing. But then, something shifted inside her. Fear gave way to clarity. She needed help. Now, her fingers fumbled as she scrolled through her phone, her vision still blurred with panic. There was only one person she trusted in that moment, Julian. The call rang twice before he answered. "Aaliyah," his calm voice came through. "Is everything okay?" "No," she whispered, her voice shaking. "It's not. I found something." A pause. "What did you find?" Her throat tightened. "There's something under the floor. Bones, I think? Human bones." Silence. Then Julian's tone changed, still calm but sharper now. "Listen to me carefully," he said. "Don't touch anything else. Don't move it. I'm coming over." "You are?" "Yes, stay where you are." The line went dead. Allie lowered the phone slowly, her hands still trembling. For the first time since all of this had started, she didn't feel completely alone. Julian arrived faster than she expected. When she opened the door, he immediately noticed her pale face and red, tear-filled eyes. "You found something," he said quietly. Allie nodded, unable to speak. She led him to the foyer. The moment he stepped near the tile, Rex began growling again, his body stiff with tension. Julian frowned slightly. "He's reacting to the same spot," he murmured. Allie pointed to the open tile. Julian crouched down carefully, his expression turning serious as he looked inside. For a long moment he said nothing. Then he exhaled slowly. "You were right," he said. "These are human remains." Allie closed her eyes, her worst fear now confirmed. "What do we do?" she whispered. Julian stood up, his gaze steady.
"We call the police."
The police arrived within the hour. 2 officers entered the apartment, followed by a forensic team. The once quiet foyer quickly turned into a scene of investigation. Allie stood off to the side, hugging herself tightly as she watched them work. They carefully removed the tile, then more. The hollow space beneath was larger than it had first appeared, and what they uncovered made Allie's blood run cold. It wasn't just a few fragments. It was a body, or what remained of one. The bones were arranged in a way that left no doubt. Someone had been buried there, deliberately, hidden, forgotten, until now. "Ma'am," one of the officers approached her gently. "We're going to need to ask you a few questions." Allie nodded numbly. "When did you move in?" 2 days ago. "And you had no idea this was here?" "No," she said quickly. "I swear I didn't know." The officer studied her face for a moment, then nodded. "We believe you." Allie swallowed hard. "Do you know who it could be?" she asked. The officer exchanged a glance with his partner. "It's too early to say," he replied. "But given the condition of the remains, they've been here a long time." Allie's mind immediately went to the photograph. To Aunt Carol, to the missing family. Her stomach twisted. What if... She hesitated. What if it's connected to the previous owner? The officer's expression sharpened. Tell me everything you know. By the time Marcus returned home that evening, the apartment was surrounded by police tape. Flashing lights illuminated the building. Neighbors gathered outside, whispering among themselves. Marcus pushed through the crowd, his face dark with confusion and growing anger. What the hell is going on? He demanded as he reached the entrance. Inside, he found Allie standing near the doorway, Julian beside her. The moment Marcus saw him, his expression hardened.
Who is this?
He snapped. Mark? Allie began, her voice unsteady. There's something you need to know. I asked you a question, he interrupted coldly. Julian stepped forward calmly. Julian Vance, I'm a veterinarian. I came when Aaliyah called for help. Marcus's jaw tightened. She called you? He repeated, his tone dangerous. Allie took a step forward. Mark, please, just listen. There were bones under the floor. Human bones. For a second, Marcus froze, completely still. The color drained from his face, just like it had when he saw the photograph. You're lying, he said quietly. I'm not, Allie replied. The police are here. They found everything. Marcus's gaze darted toward the foyer, where officers were still working. Something flickered in his eyes. Not surprise, not confusion, recognition, and fear. Real fear. Allie saw it clearly now. You knew, she whispered. Marcus snapped his head toward her. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do, she said, her voice gaining strength. You knew something was wrong with this place. That's why you didn't want me asking questions. That's why you reacted the way you did to the photo. That's enough, he growled. No, Allie shot back. I deserve the truth. The room fell silent. Even the officers nearby paused, sensing the tension. Marcus stared at her, his breathing heavy. For a moment, it looked like he might say something. Confess. Explain. But then, his expression shut down completely. Cold. Distant. You don't know what you're getting into, he said quietly. Allie felt a chill run through her. Then tell me, she whispered. Marcus didn't answer. Instead, he turned away. And that was when the officer approached him. Sir, he said firmly, we need you to come with us. Marcus stiffened. For what? For questioning. A long, heavy silence followed. Then, Marcus slowly nodded. As they led him away, his eyes met Allie's one last time. And in that moment, she realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about the past. This was about him, and whatever secrets he had been hiding were finally coming to light. The flashing lights outside painted the walls in red and blue, turning Allie's new home into something unrecognizable, no longer a place of hope. But a crime scene. Marcus was gone, taken by the police without another word. And just like that, the life she thought she knew began to collapse. The next few days passed in a blur. Investigators came and went, collecting evidence, taking photographs, asking questions over and over again. Allie answered everything honestly, though each word felt heavier than the last. Rex never left her side. The tile in the foyer was now completely removed, exposing the hidden cavity beneath. What had once been carefully concealed was now out in the open. And with it, the truth was beginning to surface. 2 days later, Allie received a call. Ms. Dixon? A calm voice said. This is Detective Harris. We have preliminary results from the forensic team. Her heart skipped. Yes? There were 2 sets of remains. Allie's breath caught. 2? Yes, 1 adult male and 1 child. Her legs nearly gave out beneath her. She grabbed onto the nearest chair for support. And the woman? She asked weakly. There was a pause. No remains of an adult female were found. Allie closed her eyes. Aunt Carol? She wasn't buried there, which meant she had lived after everything. Do you have any identification? Allie asked, her voice trembling. We're still running tests, the detective replied. But based on the timeline and what you told us, we believe these may be the remains of Carolyn Harris's husband and daughter. The room spun. The photograph. The smiling family. My family, Eli, Maisie. Tears welled in Allie's eyes. They hadn't disappeared. They had been hidden. That evening, there was another knock on her door. This time, it wasn't the police. It was Mrs. Jones. The old woman stepped inside quietly, her usual warmth replaced by something heavier. I heard, she said softly, about what they found. Allie nodded, unable to speak. Mrs. Jones sighed deeply and sat down. There's something I didn't tell you, she admitted. Allie looked up. What is it? The old woman hesitated, then continued. The night they disappeared, I heard something. Allie's heart began to race. What kind of something? A fight, Mrs. Jones said. Voices raised. A man shouting. Then, a loud crash. Allie felt a chill crawl up her spine. Why didn't you tell anyone? I was afraid, she whispered. The next day, Marcus's mother came. She spoke to a few people in the building. After that, no one talked about it again. Allie's stomach twisted. They covered it up. Mrs. Jones nodded slowly. Yes. The next piece of the puzzle came sooner than expected, Marcus confessed. Allie sat across from him in the interrogation room, separated by a thick pane of glass. She had insisted on being there when he told his story. She needed to hear it from him. Marcus looked different, tired, broken, like a man who had been carrying a weight for far too long. It wasn't supposed to happen like that, he said quietly, his voice hollow. Allie said nothing. She simply waited. My mother, she hated Carol, he continued. She thought her husband wasn't good enough, said he was dragging the family name down. Allie clenched her fists. So what did she do? Marcus swallowed hard. She tried to force Carol to leave him. There were arguments, constant fights. And that night? Allie pressed. Marcus's eyes flickered with something dark. My mother went there. They argued again. It got out of control. His voice cracked. I was there. Allie's breath stopped. You were there? He nodded slowly. I was young. I didn't understand everything. But I remember the shouting. I remember things being thrown. And then? She whispered. Marcus closed his eyes. My mother pushed him. A heavy silence filled the room. He hit his head, Marcus continued. Hard. He didn't get up. Allie felt her chest tighten. And the child? She asked, her voice barely audible. Marcus's face twisted in pain. She saw everything, he said. She started screaming. Wouldn't stop. Tears filled his eyes. My mother panicked. Allie already knew what came next. But hearing it was unbearable. She silenced her, Marcus whispered. The world seemed to stop. Allie stared at him, unable to process the horror of his words. And then? You hid them? She asked, her voice shaking. Marcus nodded. My mother made me help, he admitted. We buried them under the floor, covered it up, told everyone they had left. Allie felt something inside her break.
You lived with that?
She said. All these years? I tried to forget, he whispered. We all did. And Aunt Carol? Marcus looked away. She knew, he said, but she couldn't prove anything. My mother controlled everything. She was powerless. And the photograph? Allie asked. Marcus hesitated. She kept it hidden, he said. It was all she had left of them. Tears streamed down Allie's face. Everything made sense now. The lies, the anger, the fear. This house, she whispered. You knew. Marcus nodded slowly. Yes. Then why did you bring me here? She demanded. He looked at her, his eyes filled with regret. I thought, if we started over, maybe it would all stay buried. Allie let out a bitter laugh. Buried? She repeated. You buried a family, Mark. Weeks later, the apartment was empty. Allie stood in the doorway one last time, her suitcase beside her. The tile had been removed completely now. The floor was being repaired, as if trying to erase what had been found. But some things could never be erased. Rex stood beside her, calm now, at peace. The danger was gone. The truth had been uncovered. Allie took a deep breath and stepped outside. For the first time in a long time, she felt free. Not because everything was okay, but because the truth, no matter how painful, had finally come to light. Behind her, the door closed softly, ending one chapter of her life and beginning another.